Hey everyone, Ben here, welcome to the channel. I've been getting a few comments in some of my videos about what kind of build I use, so I wanted to go ahead and go over that. This build is one of my favorites to play in Cyberpunk, and honestly, it's not very complicated, and I think it's just broken powerful. So we're going to be going over the attributes, key perks, our weapons, and our cyberware for the Net Samurai. So to touch on one of the key aspects of this build would be the attribute points. At level 50 we ended up with 20 reflexes, 18 in body, 16 in cool, 12 in intelligence, and 5 in technical ability. Honestly, this game does a really good job about making you feel overpowered, so if you want to change up some of these attribute points you definitely can, and you probably won't feel a difference in power level. It's just that I found these to work best for my playstyle. To start going over the key perks of this build, we can go over blades first because we'll be using the katana the most. As you can see, it's actually kind of barren, mostly because of this perk, Crimson Dance. Crimson Dance allows you to apply bleeding to enemies with combos, but I've actually noticed that we one or two shot enemies, so we don't even get the chance to apply that effect to most enemies. Moving on to the essential perks in the blades category would be Judge, Jury, and Executioner. Essentially what this perk does is that you deal double damage against enemies with max health. A good thing to note too, since knives are technically blades, I mean, it's pretty obvious, you deal double damage with throwing knives as well. The next key perk is Blessed Blade. It basically just increases your crit chance with blades, which is exactly what we're looking for. The next important perk I think is Death Bolt. Whenever you defeat an enemy, you basically just regain health and increases your movement speed. And lastly, for the Blades perk tree, we just have other perks that basically increase our damage output, like Sting Like a Bee, Roaring Waters, Fiery Blast, and Float Like a Butterfly. We also have Slow and Steady just to increase our armor while we move. Moving on from the Blades category, we go to Ninjutsu, which you'll find under the Cool attribute. And first up we have Dagger Dealer, that allows us to throw knives and they'll actually return to you after a specific amount of time. Strike from the Shadows, we increase our crit chance by 7%. Assassin, we deal 15% more damage to human enemies, and I don't think this just applies to stealth either. Crouching Tiger for movement speed. Next we have Sniper, which increases headshot damage from outside of combat by 20%, and this actually applies to damage applied with any weapon. So if you hit an enemy in the head with a katana, it'll still get that 20% damage bonus, which is awesome. And lastly we have Juggler. Whenever you land a crit or defeat an enemy with a thrown knife, all thrown knives come back to you instantaneously. This is especially useful in combat, so that way you're not waiting 3 to 5 seconds for a knife to return to your hand. Alternatively, you can also walk up to the knife and pick it back up, assuming you can get there. Moving on from the ninjutsu skill tree, we go to quick hacking, which is under the intelligence attribute tree. A lot of these just help deal more damage with quick hacks like Bloodware and Subliminal Message. We actually deal more damage to unaware targets. And the rest of these perks just help with our net running capabilities like recovering RAM faster, or quick hack spread distance, or even quick hack cooldown rates. I'd also recommend putting points into Datamine Virtuoso under the Breach Protocol tab. This allows you to start getting legendary quick hacks from those access points that you find throughout Night City. And the last skill tree I want to touch on is Athletics. Although not necessary or required, these just really help with V's survivability. For example, we have Steel and Chrome, which increases our melee damage. We also have Divided Attention and Multitasker, which allow us to shoot and reload while sprinting, vaulting, dodging, whatever. And the rest of these just help V's survivability, like increased max stamina or our health regeneration. Those were the essential perks that I thought were necessary for the build, but if you want to change things up, you absolutely can. Like I said, this game is really versatile in its way of making you feel very powerful. So if you're missing one or two or half of these perks, I'm sure you'll be fine and feel just as overpowered.
The hell is this?
And moving on to our weapons, we have the Satori. I know this weapon is a fan favorite, but I think that's for good reason. All iconic weapons in Cyberpunk 2077 actually have special abilities or bonuses that they get. In this case, the Satori gets an insane amount of crit damage, which actually works pretty well for our build since we've been getting a lot of perks that increase our crit chance, and later on we'll be getting some cyberware to help improve that as well. The Satori can be found during the mission The Heist in the first act. Sadly, if you've missed picking it up, you cannot go back and go get it. So Yeah, sorry about that. But an alternative katana that you can get that's almost as good in my opinion is the Jinchu Maru. It might be impossible to miss, but just in case you don't remember or you haven't gotten there yet, during Act 2, the mission Play It Safe, you actually acquired the Jinchu Maru from the boss at the end of that mission. So, yeah, I don't think you can miss it, but just in case you did. The reason why I love the Jinchu Maru as well is because you get the 100% crit chance while using the Kerenzikov. The Kerenzikov is an implant that you can get that slows down time while dodging, and has a 5-second cooldown time, meaning that you'll be able to achieve a 100% crit chance in rapid succession. Moving on from the katanas over to the throwing knives now, we have the Blue Fang. You can actually find this knife from the melee vendor in Jackson Plains. It's actually the only melee weapons vendor I think down there, so I don't think you can miss it. Blue Fang actually became one of my favorite throwing knives in the whole entire game as soon as I read its iconic ability. You can actually stun enemies with headshots after 1 second, or if you hit them anywhere else, it'll stun them after 3 seconds, and then if you hit an enemy outside of the combat state, they'll be stunned immediately. It's actually pretty perfect for stealth. Just in case you actually missed that initial headshot, you'll be able to stun them afterwards. But with the perks that we've been getting along the way, we'll be insta-killing enemies from stealth. I think the only downside with the Blue Fang is the 11-second recovery time. If you happen to miss an opponent during combat, you'll have to wait either 11 seconds or you'll have to run up to the knife and go get it. I'm sure the cooldown time would be better if we were able to upgrade the Blue Fang to like legendary per se, but we can't. And moving on from the throwing knives over to the last weapon slot is pretty much anything that you really want. Like I said, this build is pretty versatile, so you can honestly switch it up whenever you want. The main damage output is going to be our katana and our throwing knives, so the third weapon slot will just be, there to fill in the gap. For this one though, I do like the prototype Shingen Mark V. It's just a really good smart submachine gun, and you can actually find this in the Arasaka Industrial Park. I really do like using the Mark V though because it's quick, it's fast, and we generally don't have to aim with it since we're using the Smart Link. The same concept can be applied to Fenrir, an iconic power submachine gun, as long as you're using the legendary ballistic coprocessor and a muzzle brake of some kind. The bullets will just go to the enemy. You don't even have to aim at them, you just aim at the ground. As a quick note as well, whenever you pick up an iconic weapon, it scales to your level, so you can wait until you're at a higher level to pick them up, so that way you're not spending crafting components and spending a whole bunch of time on that. As far as the mods that I have installed on these weapons, I wanted to get more crit chance because we'll be doing extra damage with crits because of our short circuit quick hack, which we'll be getting into later. Speaking of quick hacks, let's take a look at the cyberware that we are using for our build. Starting off with the frontal cortex, we have the memory boost. We recover 3 cyberdeck RAM units upon defeating an enemy, which is really useful since we're going to be using a lot of quick hacks. Next, we have the limbic system enhancement, which increases our crit chance by 4%. Very important, very, very important. And then we have the heal on kill, pretty self-explanatory. Next up, we have the Kuroshi Optics MK3. I really like this one because we get to use the trajectory analysis, so we get to increase our headshot damage bonus by 25%. We also have the threat detector, and we also have the weak spot detection, which also increases our crit chance. Moving on to the circulatory system, we have the biomonitor, second heart, which is just broken because you just instantly restore 100% HP when you get to 0, so you just have 2 lives essentially, and the adrenaline booster. In the immune system, we have the pain editor, and the Kataresist. The nervous system is the Kerenzikov, that's the one I mentioned earlier that works really well with the Jinchu Maru. And then we have the maneuvering system just in case you want to dodge mid-air. Moving on to the integumentary system, we have the subdermal armor, heat converter, and the optical camo. Moving on to our operating system, we are using the Tetratronic Rippler MK4, a legendary / iconic cyberdeck, and personally one of my favorite cyberdecks in the whole game. You can actually buy this cyberdeck from the Ripper Dock in Charter Hill next to the Luxury Apartments fast travel point. This cyberdeck comes with 6 slots for quick hacks, and it also reduces your quick hack upload time by about 75%, which is pretty perfect for this build. Then the 6 quick hacks that I chose for this build are Short Circuit, Memory Wipe, Ping, Sonic Shock, Cyber Psychosis, and Suicide. All of these quick hacks are pretty fine and dandy, however, my favorites to use would have to be short circuit and memory wipe. You do a crazy amount of damage with short circuit, and it has a pretty fast upload and cooldown time, and not to mention the passive bonus you get while you have it equipped. While you have this equipped, whenever you land a critical hit, you also apply a low level short circuit to that hit. Memory Wipe is a great quick hack as well. It temporarily takes enemies out of the combat state and they're pretty much stunned for about 5 to 13 seconds. This quick hack can also affect the entire target squad. So if there's 5, 6, or 7 people in that squad, you'll be able to stun all of them. Those are just my favorite quick hacks. There are a ton of other ones in the game that are super useful as well. It just really depends on what you find most useful. So that was it as far as the important aspects of the build. Now I just kind of want to go over some tips and tricks that I found while playing the game. Whenever you throw a grenade at an enemy while in stealth, as long as the enemy doesn't see you directly throw it, they won't react to the grenade at all. Another quick thing is if you hit an enemy with a grenade, they'll automatically know where you're at, so just try not to ding them on the head with it. So essentially you can be like a stealth bomber, I don't know, you could just throw grenades at an enemy until they die and they just won't react to you. Next tip that I have is for throwing knives. You know that popular game Far Cry when you can like throw rocks to lure an enemy? You can kind of do that with throwing knives too. So once you throw the throwing knife, the enemy nearby will start looking in that direction, giving you the opportunity to do net samurai things to them. And lastly, once you grapple an enemy, you can still actually quick hack anything around you. You just can't look up or down. But this is really helpful if you're stealthing through places and you grapple somebody and there's an enemy about to spot you. You can reboot their optics or you can short circuit them, whatever you need to do. And I think that kind of wraps up our build video, to be honest. Now, I do have a bunch of hours in this game, but I don't think I'm an expert, so if you would have done anything differently or if there is something better that you had in mind, please comment down below and share. I'd love to see it, actually. But thank you guys so much for joining me. I really do appreciate it. Down below, I do have some links to my Discord and to Twitch if you want to follow me there. I do stream sometimes, so if you want to catch me playing some more Cyberpunk, you totally can. But thanks again, guys. If you want to see a different build, please let me know in the comments, and I hope to see you in the next one. Stay safe.